Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines. We got Elon and Twitter. We got Jack Dorsey with a new platform. Brian Armstrong, Coinbase. The UK and stablecoin rules approved. We're going to get into it. Stuart Alderati, Gary Gensler, and a hair-standing story about why you want to make sure you got your crypto taxes together. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Uphold, ladies and gentlemen, 0% commission on staking and up to 25% APY. Don't fool around. You don't know how much longer it'll be available. Click the link underneath the video and check out my sponsor. And check out this. You can get linked to, if you're an accredited investor, through your Uphold wallet. You can actually buy linked to the SPVs here, or Ripple, or Acorns, or PolySign when it's available, or Zipline, working with NASA, and many, many other great opportunities here. Make sure you check out the link for that sponsor as well. Look right here, everybody. We know Elon Musk very quickly sealed the deal, baby. He said, let that sink in, as he walks into the headquarters of Twitter with a kitchen sink. And it doesn't stop there, because Jack Dorsey is announcing that there's the Blue Sky project will be a contender to Twitter. As of a week ago, he had 30,000 on a waiting list. What Jack doesn't realize is it's not even worth the gamble. Elon will always have the winning hand, says the article. But if you go into this, I'm not so sure just yet. This is going to get very interesting. Jack Dorsey's new Blue Sky social app is now accepting users beta testing and is set to launch soon. Highly anticipated social media project has been described as a rival to Twitter and is set to challenge the existing social media platforms like Facebook, Meta, Instagram, and Snapchat. But listen to this, though. On Tuesday, Blue Sky announced the roadmap of its decentralized social network protocol, which will be the underlying code behind the app. Importantly, it says user data will be free from government influence and controlled by users rather than commercialized by a corporation, a move which could revolutionize the personal data economy. Let me stop right there. I'll be joining that program when it comes out. I can tell you that. If that is a very real fact about that platform, I'll be joining it. And you're going to want to join it to follow what I'm going to say on it. The app's code will allow users' account data to be moved from platform to platform. Blue Sky users will be able to use their account to log into any social media account that adopts the new code. A single account will give them access to all their favorite social media. Oh my, oh my, oh my. This is getting exciting. I love the idea of competition, and I love the idea even more of a decentralized blockchain underlying that governmental influence cannot have a hand in. Oh, Brian Armstrong from Coinbase. Kumbaya. Can't we all just sit by the fire and sing? Here we go. Take a listen.
I want the whole industry to kind of collaborate more. Like the divisiveness, the tribalism in crypto is one thing that kind of bugs me. I think it probably bugs you too.
I'll tell you what bugs me, Brian. It bugs me when people that say things like you do and don't practice what you preach. Read less XRP then. How about that? The MoneyGram deal was approved, right? By the SEC. The SEC never said you had a security in XRP and you need to take it off. You just chose to do that. So you want to practice what you preach. You want to go out here and start telling everybody else what they need to be doing. Why don't you just lead by example, right? How about that one for a notion? UK's leading by example, ladies and gentlemen. The UK stablecoin rules approved. A lot of you are going, big deal. I can't make a fortune off of stablecoins. Okay, all right. Well, you've missed the plot now, haven't you? Stablecoins are not only the on and off ramp to this digital world and asset class, but everything is going to be tokenized and digitized, which means that legitimate stablecoins and CBDCs will be the way in and out of them. Here's the other notion. If they get it right with stablecoins and CBDCs as a new form of money being launched and regulated, it will be 100% backed. not fractionally backed like the debt-based fractional reserve system, lending system that we currently have in place. And this is how you transition the world from retail to central banks and central monopolists, I believe, to such a place that we're talking about where there's true accountability. And talk about a lack of accountability. Stuart Alderati shares this. The SEC's Office of Inspector General, OIG, report is worth the read. Besides the embarrassingly bad performance review, the OIG concludes there is uncertainty whether the SEC has jurisdiction over crypto. This is the SEC's own cop on the beat talking. But yet Gary Gensler finds it to be clear. Him and Joseph Lubin, right? I tell you, oh, brother, listen, I'll tell you, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of uncertainty. You guys know that Clinton is my sponsor. Don't jump off this video, whatever you do. Do me a favor. It will be your favor before it's over. This is a hair-raising story of a real person who is going to tell you in just a couple minutes what his experience has been like because he decided he wasn't going to report his crypto and Bitcoin holdings. This is a very, very real story. I want you to listen to this. I'm going to let it roll the way it is because it blew my mind. And knowing that we're coming to the end of the year, taxes are coming. If you're not sure what to do, click the link for Clinton underneath it there. Do not mess around. And you know what? Hey, let's look at it this way. Whether it's XRP or some other thing that you've invested in, what if you're right? What if you're right to the tune that we believe we could be right about Ripple and XRP, even though it's unknown, not financial advice? But what if you're right with one of these investments? And how awful would it be to have somebody knock on your door with badges and guns, IRS agents, and all of a sudden your windfall becomes a nightmare? Take a listen.
Thank you so much for coming to our event, and I'm looking forward to your talk.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be at the first Rare Bloom conference. And I want to thank the conference organizers for giving everybody free drink tickets. You might need them after my talk.
And he's not kidding either. This is a very, very scary story here if you've decided to not report your crypto. Let's get it lined up. Here we go.
My name is Clinton Donnelly from Crypto Tax Audit. I want you to hear my client's story. In 2016, he stopped filing tax returns to avoid paying taxes on his cryptocurrency gains. He became my client after pleading guilty to tax evasion. Now, the standard punishment for tax evasion is up to $250,000 penalty and 5 years in prison for each year that there is tax evasion. He was given 1 month to put his affairs in order before reporting to prison. During that month, my staff calculated his cryptocurrency gains and prepared 4 years of federal and state tax returns to bring him into full compliance. He also became an audit defense member at Crypto Tax Audit so that we could represent him before the federal and state tax authorities. If you find this video helpful, please subscribe, follow, like, and share with others to help them. Now, here's his story.
After you filed a false return, what fears did you have afterwards?
Well, initially, I didn't have a whole lot of fears because based on some advice that I was given by somebody that was not a tax professional or a tax lawyer, I felt that what I had done was something that could be argued or something that I could make a case out of if it ever came down to it. So initially, I thought that I was in the right and that even if I wasn't, I was investing in cryptocurrency that was going to be off the radar. And so I didn't have a whole lot of fears. The fears didn't start after filing the return. The fears started after the IRS agent showed up at the house.
Tell me about the initial contact with the IRS.
Okay, so the initial contact was actually in person by 2 criminal investigation agents for the IRS, the ones that have the badges and the guns on their hips.
How did the investigation from the agents proceed? It took a few years.
After they showed up, I had an attorney contact them to find out what was going on. They actually sent me a letter to ask if I would be willing to come down and have an interview with them at their field office. And I showed up with a couple of attorneys to the field office, which that did kind of catch them off guard. And they proceeded to start asking me questions. And I did my best to try to simply plead the fifth and not answer the questions. In fact, I was probably a little bit more cavalier than I should have been in terms of cooperating with them. And I felt that I had a legitimate reason for doing what I was doing, and that, my Bitcoin was safe and secure and somewhat anonymous. And so that's how it started. How it proceeded was after half an hour conversation with them in the field office, they let me know that they were not going to be dropping anything and they were going to continue pursuing me. And then after that, they started sending summons letters for all of my bank accounts and financial transactions, merchant accounts, anything that had to do with the financial system that I had accounts with. They summoned all that information. We filed petitions to get that information quashed. They won every single instance to be able to be collecting that information. And then things went quiet for a couple of years. And, during that couple-year period, it was a stressful time for me because I was constantly feeling like I was looking over my shoulders. I couldn't even set up a bank account. And I just really was limited with what I could do financially because I felt like, the moment that I made any financial transaction or any move would be like popping up out of a hole and having agents, standing there waiting to wrap me up and take me away.
How did they learn about your Bitcoin holdings?
Yeah, that's a good question because I'm not even really sure how they found out about the Bitcoin that I owned at the time. I felt that I was going to be safe from a privacy standpoint. I knew that Bitcoin wasn't totally anonymous, but at the same time, the Bitcoin that I did own was never purchased through an exchange. It never had touched an exchange. It was all purchased through private transactions from one individual that was from a hardware wallet to a hardware wallet. And so I don't know how they found out about the Bitcoin, but they did. They ended up actually dusting my wallets. They implanted small Satoshis into my hardware wallet. And
did you just hear that? They planted Satoshis in his hardware wallet.
And now every transaction that I make or made after that point was able to be tracked and traced.
You were then contacted by one of the attorneys from the IRS office, letting you know that you were going to be indicted.
Yeah.
How did that go for you? How did that feel?
Yeah, that was a pretty scary time because that was, when I guess you could say that the rubber met the road. When the U.S. attorney calls and says that they're going to be making an indictment, then it's time to hire a criminal tax attorney. And criminal tax attorneys aren't cheap. And I actually contacted 2 to get a second opinion to make sure that if I had a case that we could make a case. But both individuals that I contacted had over 35 years in criminal tax attorney experience. And both of them highly suggested that I make a deal with the government because it would be pointless to try to fight it.
When you realized that you would go to jail, what thoughts did you have?
Well, the thoughts at that time I was terrifying because, during the course of this investigation period that lasted for 5 years, I was still trying to move forward with my life. You know, my wife and I had a son. We were right in the middle of building a house, trying to raise a 2-year-old son. And it was devastating because I was going to have to, leave them and be away from my child and be away from the home and basically leave all of the responsibilities with running our life, on my wife and partner.
You a different person today?
Well, I'm different in a lot of different ways. I mean, I guess I ended up being in prison for 6 months. I had a chance to really focus on myself and improve myself, improve my mindset, improve my physical being. And, I think I'm better today because I have a greater appreciation for the systems that's in place and the resources that our government has to make sure that you stay compliant.
You said some things earlier about the fact that it was a life sentence, really, and that it follows your act. Can you talk about that a little bit more, please?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that you learn if you find yourself in the system, is that, even though it was a sentence that required 6 months of my time, plus some probation, the fact of the matter is that getting caught up in a situation like that is ultimately a life sentence, regardless of how short or small the punishment may seem. Because what I did carried a felony with it. And, that felony is going to be on my record forever. And, you and I talked about earlier that, it's people make different assumptions based on that and look at you differently. And that's absolutely right. I mean, if I was to be pulled over for going a few miles above the speed limit and, officer runs my driver's license, they're going to see that I have that, and the likelihood that I'll get a warning over a ticket is much more reduced now.
Is there anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think just, one of the reasons that you talked to me about having this conversation was, I had indicated to you that I wanted to use my story as, a way to help other people that might be in a similar situation. And, and when you and I talked about the fact that, that there's a large percentage of people that have crypto accounts compared to the number of people that report their crypto holdings on the tax returns, there's obviously discrepancy. And, I think if anybody can learn from my situation, and, for the most part, I think, a lot of people aren't really even sure that what they're doing is illegal or not really sure what to do about it. And, one of the things that I found in my situation was that once I kind of started going down that whirlpool, it just became harder and harder and harder to try to make a correction. Ultimately, it took me getting a case to kind of bring things to an end. And I think that if somebody's out there that's not sure what to do, or they're not reporting their crypto holdings, it would be in their best interest to find a way to do that, especially in the fact that the IRS is hiring 87,000 new agents and they're putting an emphasis on crypto. You don't want your day to be interrupted like I did by having a couple guys with guns and badges knocking on your door asking questions.
Well, he's absolutely right about that. I don't want anybody knocking on my door with badges and guns. I can tell you that for sure. But to learn that the government or the IRS or both are putting Bitcoin Satoshi dust in your wallets to track what's going on. Oh, brother. We all better make sure we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's. I want to thank Clinton Donnelly, my sponsor, for this clip. I want to thank the gentleman in the clip for sharing his story. And I hope, like he says, it helps at least someone out here hearing what has happened to him. Take the necessary steps, reach out, get crypto tax audit defense, link underneath the video. Tell him I sent you. Tell him I said, come on in. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch you on the next one.